This conference will now be recorded.
The time being 4:45 p.m., I'd like to call the meeting of June 16th, 2022 to order. Before we get started, if you are joining us virtually, please mute your microphone during the meeting unless you want to speak. Otherwise, background noise will interfere with the meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on tonight's agenda is to review and approve the minutes of June 2nd, 2022.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes of June 2nd, 2022 as written.
Ruggles second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from June 2nd, 2022, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Selectman Constantino, nay. The next item on the agenda, I'd like to make a motion to accept the donation of an ice machine from Joe and Diana Ricci for the senior center, the approximate value being $1,000.
Second.
Second from Selectman Constantino. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Jesselman?
How big is the ice machine? What are the physical dimensions? If they come in various sizes.
Yep. Hold on a minute.
Do we have room?
We do. There's a couple places we can put it up there. Okay. It's 39.5 inches tall, 31 inches in depth, front to back, and 30 inches side to side.
That's not a giant ice machine.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Next item is to I'll make a motion to accept the donation of a 60-inch flat screen television from Jerry Chiley, owner of Chaley, thank you, owner of Lockmere Country Club for the senior center, the approximate value being $450.
Second.
Motion
and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Jesselman?
Where will it be placed?
In place of the one that's already there,
And where will that one go?
we'll probably donate it. I'll sell it, one or the other. That was a donation in memory of my parents when the senior center opened 13 years ago. So it's kind of outdated itself.
Mhm.
This will be used a lot more. We do, the AA group does Zoom meetings on Friday evenings. And also they do the exercise program virtually. And they do a lot of programs now with the different programs, not just exercising, but different programs and movies. And you can see it better on a 60-inch rather than 32.
60 inches in case you want to measure.
I don't have
Is
exactly.
it one of those skinny ones?
It probably is.
And John Scanlon has volunteered to mount that, check the existing mount that's on there, and if it can hold it, fine. If not, we'll get a mount that will hold it, but it'll go in the exact same place.
Any more discussion? Those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Next up are selectmen's reports. I am first. First note is for anyone listening or to be listening is I am going to excuse myself at 5:30 this evening because my youngest child is finishing up her career at the middle school, and I'm going to go to the 8th grade celebration at the middle school. So just when people see me exit, whether now or on the video that they see, that is the reason for it. So updates on summer concert series will be coming forthwith. I was able to meet with both Selectman Jessamine and Titus, who organizes the concerts, to take a look at the facility. And we are shoring up those. And so please, there are announcements that will be coming very, very quickly and very soon. Of course, it'll be on Sundays in July and August. So
Commencing July 10th.
starting on July 10th. So excellent. This will be asking for some support of the board as the Economic Development Committee has started to put the idea out there of a signature event in town. Aside from our parades, et cetera, is that there is we are looking at hosting, and we would love to host something of the name right now, sort of called Fall into Tilton in the autumn, specifically on September 17th. The idea is to follow suit of some other municipalities, including most recently Keene, New Hampshire. And what we would like to do is be able to host sort of a brew and barbecue festival and highlighting some of our local restaurants, be able to cordon off downtown, be able to host and obviously an adults only beer tent area, and looking specifically for board support of the beer tent idea with the specifics to be locked down and put forth later. It was a very good discussion that we had this week overall. So just looking for board support specifically in terms of the beer tent and having a beer tent in downtown Tilton.
Oh, does it has Diet Coke going along with it? I'm fine with it.
I will make sure that we have
Okay.
Diet Coke. If it has to be supplied by Selectman Ruggles, it will be supplied by Selectman Ruggles.
I'm in favor.
So,
I'm skeptical.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of beer tents, but because of that, I also know that people from the beer tent go back out into the countryside, so to speak. And I'm just skeptical at this point.
absolutely. So, so Selectman Jessamine, so, we had talked about, making sure that before we set the parameters of it, that we looked into how the other municipalities handled it, the wristbanding, all of that stuff, so that we keep things under control and make sure that it's, an appropriate use of that beer garden, et cetera. And so very honestly, I forgot to mention too, is that we want to make it a very family friendly event with that option for the adults to be in that cordoned off area. Okay, so board support on the beer tent. We got some skepticism, yes, some support. So the other, Mr. Scanlon, yes, thumbs up. Mr. Pyra?
I'm all for it.
Yes.
Who would operate the beer tent?
So as of right now, we have being organized by Kettlehead Brewery right here in town. They have two other local breweries, Vulgar from Franklin and Twin Barns from Meredith, on board right now. And I believe there'll probably be a couple others to come, but we know that those three are on board as of this moment. So, and we figure that this might be a start to hopefully an event that we can host on a yearly basis and become a signature event for the town. Super. Okay, so we've got some thumbs up around the table. Excellent. So a reminder that there is this June 21st at 6 p.m. at the Pines, the announcement of the Citizen of the Year for both Northfield and Tilton will be made. So if anyone who wants to attend, that's at the Pines. It starts at 6 p.m. So, Mr. Jessamine?
No, I'll pass.
Okay, good. So we also have the Old Home Day Parade coming up quickly. Very excited that we get to return to Old Home Day. And just with we had some highlighting of the parade rules as Old Home Day does, and we remind ourselves too that we can hand out candy. As I said in discussion with you guys before, I'll be happy to walk along on the side and hand out as much as we can. But they do say right in their parade bylaws, please refrain from throwing the candy from the floats. We can hand out candy. So if you guys want to throw it at me, I'll catch it and then hand it over. So if that's going to satisfy the throwing.
Well, they're throwing.
So
We've done it for 15 years, so
I'm addicted.
the throwing it at me,
the Old Home Day committee throws it.
just
They
a
need to
reminder,
update their bylaws.
Okay.
just a reminder, noted. But maybe
Okay,
some
so
of those.
noted.
So the last piece that I have is we've trying to be looking at in our discussions that we've had briefly, and then also coming out of the Economic Development Committee is updating the sidewalk policy. So I'll give each of you a copy of the way that we've sort of adjusted it a little bit, and you can see the front copy is the current copy, and then on the back there are just some adjustments to make it a little bit cleaner and clearer. So if we would take a minute to sort of review those and gotcha. That's next.
So which one is the one that you, oh, this is the current.
The top one is the current one.
It doesn't make sense to me, unless I'm reading it wrong.
Doesn't the sidewalk have to be a certain width to ensure the passage of wheelchairs? Because I'm not sure what we're talking about in feet here, but some of those buildings, you put something, an obstruction 3 feet away from the building. That may or may not leave the requisite space.
I think this policy says that you can't do that, so that
Does it say that?
it
Second one.
strikes
The
out.
second page. If you look at the second page, we just condensed it and made it very clear.
Effective immediately, no merchants, business people, and no residents can place tables, chairs, or benches on the Main Street sidewalk.
There you go.
Exceptions to this. So you're saying nobody can place tables down there at all? Even the ones that have been doing, that we've given permission to in the past?
Well, that's why it says exceptions to this policy, well, only during special town sponsored events.
So,
And that was predicated on the whole COVID-19.
no,
And yeah, it was.
no, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
It was way before Shell's time. Shell had tables out there.
I think the bookstore put stuff out when they had a few books for
They do
sale.
put a thing out there, antique books.
And Jill had somewhere out there. She came to us.
I'm not in favor of cluttering the sidewalks.
And I know Bill Lawrence puts stuff out there, carts and tables with plants on it every year.
Yep.
So I mean, if it's suggested, we might want to say, or with special permission granted or something like that. And if somebody has some type of, a book sale or something they want to do, they could come to us and So like a vendor, like a food truck, does.
The issue that you have is the sidewalks are not consistent with on evenly on each side. So what you grant on one side, you can't grant on the other because of the width, for instance.
So if somebody
Casamigo.
wanted something, they could come before us and ask for it, and we could say under the conditions that they maintain the 30. width
But
or-
you wouldn't be able to do that,
Yeah.
John, which is what I'm saying, if you couldn't. So the bookstore always, obviously 1231. This side here would be able to do that because the sidewalks are wide enough. And it's, let's say, a restaurant, the V's sandwich shop. But over there, where you go to Casamigos, it's not 36 inches wide. So you wouldn't be able to put anything there and have a 36-inch wide clearance.
That's a lot, yeah.
Right. So you wouldn't be able to do that. So what you're allowing on one side, you can't allow on the other, and that wouldn't be fair. You see what I'm saying?
I lost you on that because
So,
that's a law on egress anywhere. And when the person rented or bought the store, they know that they can't do that anyway.
so let's say somebody wanted to put some books out, a bookcase or something for a sale, or Billy wanted to put some books out. As long as you maintain that 36 inches, it would be fine, but it's not fair. It's not consistently fair throughout the downtown to all businesses because they don't have that width in front of their business. And I think that's where the economic development people are coming in, because they don't have that width.
I think the Economic Development Committee is about cleaning up the downtown and making it more pedestrian friendly in terms of walking down the downtown. Right now, I think if you walk downtown, on one side, you'll see flags that are actually hanging in the walkway that you have to walk around. Just recently, with the new business, I noticed today, I don't know if you saw, they hung a open sign on the utility pole, which is not allowed. So I think the Economic Development Committee was looking for consistency and ease of walking for pedestrians.
I think Selectman Constantino does bring up a good point, and I'm going to suggest that until we know that we're going to have work done on that south sidewalk. So maybe we would leave it as the rewritten one now until the work is done on the south sidewalk, and then we come back and reconsider that by special exception or request, if someone wants to put something out. But I would wait until we have that work done to revisit it. But I think that this one becomes very, it becomes very clear, and I know what Selectman Scanlon's talking about, and not wanting to discourage our business folks from having their little sidewalk sale. But at this point in time, until we get both sidewalks equivalent, maybe this is a good one to go with, and then revisit it when that work is done by the DPW. Yes, Mr. Scanlon.
So it's pretty specific to things. So there are other things that are allowed, which would cause the same thing. Flags, the sandwich boards.
Those are signs. Both signs are out there.
There's sandwich boards up on the sidewalk right now.
Or
Because
perhaps it could put a shopping cart out there with stuff in it. So it should be more encompassing of any item securing the sidewalk or something.
Or any.
I don't think this got updated because I don't see signs. Signs were specifically.
We did talk about, or was that on the other document too?
No, it was, you all had voted on this. But I don't see, to John's point, signs.
Correct. Yeah.
You talked about it and it's not in here, so maybe we need to go back and bring this back the next at the next meeting.
You'll maybe put anything that obstructs the
Right,
water
right.
walkway.
No, I know, but I thought it was different.
Two two things we need to really clearly, we've set a precedent with stores and restaurants in the years past with allowing them to do certain things. We need to let them know if you are going to change it, if we're going to change it, we need to give them plenty of time to do that. Summer is here, and that's when they ask permission to put tables out. And the second, if we do change it, could you please give me the courtesy of spelling my name right?
Yeah, this didn't get.
That's why it wasn't updated, because I mentioned that the other day. So,
Because that was,
Thanks.
so yes, so we'll have to come back and revisit this, adding signs in, and then also some kind of statement about, or any other item that impedes the walkway, I think, because that generalizes it for us, so.
Because right now you have a huge problem with people with scooters, bicycles. I mean, that's more of a hindrance right now than somebody putting out a table with books on it.
So we'll come back, we'll revisit it once we have it reworded and spelling corrections made, so. The last question I have is wondering, just to be able to hopefully expedite the work that the town office is going to do in terms of performance evaluations. Didn't know if the board was ready to say yes to the new performance evaluation, or if we still want to chew on that until our next session.
I'll jump in if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, Selectman Constantine, please.
I have, overall, I have absolutely no problem with, where is it anyway? Is it in our books?
it should be, yes.
In this file? I don't have, I really don't have a problem with the whole on its own. What I wanted to know if we could make a little bit clearer was the process steps. The last few years, or maybe even longer than that, I don't particularly care for we do a self-evaluation, and then the manager, the department head, meets with the supervisor, meets with that person, and then that person, we get PARs already prepared for them when the department head comes. And the PAR has a percentage on it and a recommendation that the person has already talked about with that employee. It's been done in the past.
It has, but not last year, we stopped.
Okay, so the process steps, it doesn't really articulate that it's not going to happen here.
Well, it does say at the end, all original signed PARs. So in step number 8, department manager or supervisor meets with employee to present merit increase. Prior to that, number 7, the board of selectmen are authorizing merit increase. So they do that first. In item number 6 is where the discussion happens with the board, and they say yes or no, we'll change it. And then after the board says yes, then it goes back to the department manager or supervisor, and they sit down with the employee and they have the discussion about what they're getting from merit.
So how do we know between 4 and 5 and 6 that the department head really knows what's going on and they don't make that mistake and say, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about that?
Well, you're only talking about a few people. And again, we didn't do it that way last year. We've stopped doing it that way. So if you feel like there needs to be something more explicit in there, I certainly can add the language, but.
That's the only thing that caught me and said, perhaps maybe it needs to be just a little bit different language that's, if I read it and said, oh, I don't want this to happen,
Wait, I
then
don't
maybe
understand.
maybe the department head would read it that way too. So I'm thinking, of all of this, I really liked it, but the only place I thought could be
I-
more explicit was 4, 5, and 6.
But how would you make it more explicit? Because
A little bit more detailed that eliminates the question that the employee doesn't get any, there's no way for the employee to know that
But-
there's any percentage on the table, or there's any review on the table other than your job review.
To me, it seems pretty it seems like it's laid out, but I mean, I could add something that says supervisor department will not discuss merit increase until after the board reviews, if that's what you want. That's the only thing I can, because otherwise I think it's,
I'm just thinking more in terms, if you weren't here, would people understand that that's what was going on?
I think so,
Okay,
but if you all don't, you know.
okay.
Mr. Pyra.
So it's really a two-step review process now. Step one, they get their review. Step two, they go back and get find out what their merit increase
Well,
is.
it's always, I should say, not, I guess, before me, but since I've been here, I mean, I think there was one situation in the last couple of years where somebody wrote it in and they shouldn't have, and I don't even remember who it was, but the process has always been that they do their self-evaluation. It goes to the manager, supervisor, they review the self-evaluation, they do their own evaluation, they sit down with the employee, they go over it. And then in the case of, like, let's say the supervisor being Leanne with her two part-time, she would come to me as her department head and say, I recommend this increase. But she wouldn't have that discussion with them. And I wouldn't say yes or no. I would then come to the board and say, she's recommending this, and then you decide. Then once you say yes or no, then it goes, because the last thing you want is telling an employee they're getting an increase and then having the board say, no, we don't want them to get that increase. So,
That's what I wanted to eliminate.
right, I get that. Because that's not a good situation.
Wasn't that long ago, we used to go through every evaluation.
Right.
Change it all around more often than I like, and then decide on the wage, and then send it to the supervisor to give to the employee. That's how we used to do.
Without a self-evaluation, I really like the self-evaluation.
Hey, I'm all in favor of this new system.
Mr. Scanlon.
One of the things I've noticed, sometimes some of the supervisors miss some things on there, such as they don't put in the training, that they types of trainings that they wanted or stuff like that. Would it be an issue if we send it back after they say, yeah, no training, then we say, no, you need to have training in there, or what they accomplished? Should it be previewed, perhaps? It's fine, but just to look at the review form to make sure it's completed properly.
So, I mean, you're not putting more on me because I look at it anyway, and I might agree with, let's say Kevin says somebody, I don't know, wants training and whatever it might be, and I say, yes, I agree with Kevin. Then it comes to the board and you say, well, no, we don't agree with Kevin. And that's, I guess, where we get into discussion of, do the supervisors know what their people need, or do the board know better? you know, and maybe that's a discussion to bring Kevin, and you meet with Kevin anyway, because he's a department head. But if there's something that you, let's say you want somebody to get a CDL and Kevin has decided, no, we don't want him to get a CDL because we don't want to spend money. I don't know. And it comes to the board and they say, no, we actually want that. And this is what we recommend. In that instance, I would bring Kevin in front of the board so you can have that discussion with him and let him make the argument of why he thinks it's not, it should happen or it shouldn't happen, if he agrees with you or disagrees with you.
So if I'm not mistaken, and what John's talking about with the training and things, those should be noted in the professional development
Yeah.
piece. So, okay, so that would be something that we just want to make sure that they're noting it in there. As when I reviewed it, and I'll keep my comments short, when I reviewed it, I really do like the fact that there's more variety in terms of they use the term grading, that there's more categories to be able to look at, so that, you know, it's not just 1, 2, and 3, but now we've got, you know, 6 or 7 sort of areas that they're being, or that can be used in terms of the description of the work they're doing in those areas. So, which I like the tool. I think it's a much improved design over the old one. So,
I think it's a great tool. When you look at professional development, when it says where educational opportunities initiated by the employee or the supervisor, and it really goes into depth. You know, has the employee met the goal previously established? I mean, these are the questions that we've asked over the years. And now it really goes into the person that's evaluating and saying, okay, was this the supervisor? Was this the person? And it asks you the questions to evaluate. And it's a great tool, I
yeah, I
think.
noticed that too.
Mhm.
So are we ready to say yes to this? Yeah.
Just one more
Go
thing,
ahead.
in the process, yeah, I think it's great. I want to, I don't know if you go through it with the supervisors to tell them, we really want to see the comments on there, you know, and to not just sort of,
Right.
this is a very serious thing, and it's, the employee looks for this information on how they're viewed. So I think just going over with the supervisors, just a little bit of that stuff, sure you spend some time with each one and fill it out.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, to simplify, well, to me, to simplify for them, if they wanted to do it in bullet points, just, you know, that it doesn't have to be in
Right.
paragraphs, et cetera. Bullet points makes it pretty easily digestible for even us laymen. So,
The only one other comment that I had, and I'm sorry I didn't bring the one with my notes on, is there's no place here for goals. I didn't see that. Like, so you're ready for next year because you have a place here as they have met and established, you know, demonstrated goals previously established, but I don't see a place where you could now put in for next year's goals what they want to do, what their willingness is.
Yeah, I think the closest we have is the professional development, so we could add a line at the end that says, what are your goals for next year?
Yeah, right at the very,
Yeah.
like right here, just list, you know, a couple lines that just say, goal 2022, next year's goals or something.
Okay, I can add that.
Would we want to, but did they meet the previous year's goals or what else goals?
that's
Yeah, that's in
number, it's in number 7.
Number 7, yeah.
So I'm just going to add, what are your goals for next year? Because that's the appropriate place to put it.
In number 7,
Yeah, at the end,
but where would you write
in the
that?
comments section.
All right,
Well, you might have to add it onto the back page or something. They
Yeah.
have more.
So with that addition, are we all set? And
Yeah.
should we have Jeannie go ahead with this?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's okay? We don't need a motion? Motion.
Yeah, motion, yeah.
So I'll make a motion to accept the new performance evaluation, to accept the new performance evaluation tool to be used for the town and town departments
With the correction.
with the correction and addition.
Second that, Scanlon?
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I want to be
Yes.
sure I have the correct, you said the correction and the addition. What's the correction?
No, I meant addition,
Addition.
Oh, the addition of what
Yeah,
are your goals?
the goals. I think
So-
that was it.
All right. Who seconded? I'm sorry.
That was
Scanlon.
Selectman Scanlon. Discussion? No. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion to accept the new performance evaluation tool, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I am done with my report. Thank you. Next up is Mr. Jessamine.
Yes, indeed. This is Old Home Day week, and the Old Home Day is going to be held on Saturday. No, I should take that back. It's the
25th.
week after this. It's not this week, it's the following week. It's the 25th. At the Tilton School practice field, athletic field down on Park,
Sergeant Street.
off Park. You go down Park and then you go down Sergeant, and hopefully we'll have plenty of good signage. We're working on that next week. Where we'd love to get the use of the message board to put a message down in the area of Park Street, the intersection, somewhere over in that general location, that Old Home Day and where it's located.
But you meet in, just for clarification, you meet in Tilton, our message.
No, it would be in Tilton.
Okay.
The board is in Tilton,
Yeah.
sure, but just so people know and knew where it was. And that seems like it's a lot of traffic in back and forth through there. Because the Pines is closed down. Tilton School was kind enough to make the field available to the Old Home Day Committee. And thank you, Selectman Ruggles, for that. And are you available on Monday night, Scott?
I am, for you, Mr. Jessamine, whenever, yes,
At
absolutely.
6 PM, we're gonna meet down in the location down there.
Send me a text message to remind me and I'll be there.
I will,
I'll say.
I will.
Yep.
My second thing is Public Works. Public Works we had agreed that Public Works was going to do some of this stuff over there. Deb Shepherd's been in touch with Kevin. It's a matter of garbage cans, not the bags, I don't think, just the cans, because they've got a dumpster. But have you spoken with Kevin about this issue at all? I have not. Deb said, well, talk to Kevin. It's like, I don't know exactly what you need and when you need it. And injecting me into the middle of that won't help. So, in fact, you should talk to Kevin, but would you please get in touch with Kevin and see what his plans are with regard to Old Home Day?
Okay.
Okay, the second thing is the concert. I spoke with Titus this morning, and having trouble getting a band for the 3rd, and it's 4th of July weekend, so we just opted to begin the concerts on the 10th. Well, it's not we, it's Titus, decided to, the 10th was a good time to start. He already had a band set up. There's going to be 8 concerts. That's the plan, 4 in July and 4 in August. Most of the bands have been procured, and you've got a lot like ready to sign the contract type things. So he was going to get in touch with Gail Bestick in the selectman's office when he got this information so that it could be put onto the town website. And I would request that the town website be upgraded like real quick to allow for news of these concerts are actually taking place and where that is, so that we can start to get the word out.
I'm also working on getting a visual map with some delineated circles so people know from School Street where the amphitheater is too. So I will have that for you.
All right.
And if I don't, then you can text me more frequently.
We'll get those, that information uploaded just as soon as it becomes available, and it should be right quick. There's other things connected to the concert, but I'll wait for another time to bring them up. And that's my,
Just to add on to the concert, can we as a board have Jeannie write a declaration as we've done in the past? This is the 30th year, and we've done one for the 20th and the 25th. And we presented it to Allison and Titus at the concerts, thanking them for their community involvement, bringing the communities together. It's only apropos this year that it being the 30th, we should continue to do that. We've invited in the past Northville and Tilton to do it. Northville hasn't really shown up. The first couple of years they did, but then they didn't, and now we own it, so it's really up to us. So I'm in favor of it, so how many others are?
I think that would be a great idea.
So it'd be up to the chair to deliver the message.
Okay.
Read it, whatever.
So
Is this for the first concert?
Yeah, usually, yeah.
So, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So we do have something up there, and have had it, put it out on Facebook and Twitter too about summer events in the concert series. Who will be getting, is that going to be you, Scott? Will be sending me the map?
I'll get it to you. Yeah, I'll get it to you. I'll get it to Titus. I'll get it to, so.
And then the listing of the concerts?
I'm just delivering the message I got today because there's, people want to know, but I'm the food guy. And I'm focused primarily on the food and helping out where I can. And Titus has been talking with Scott
It'll go up as soon as I get it.
the details.
I have to send something to Titus this weekend, so I'll ask him for the listing of the bands that we already have. I think having whatever's there.
Yeah.
We need that, and if we have to fill in here and there, we can just fill in here and there. So I'll do that, and then I'll be able to get that, and I'm working on the overhead picture with circles and stuff like that. That's not done in crayon. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Vice Chairman Jessamine, and he is in control, and I am off to the middle school. So
Enjoy your
thank you very much.
party.
So, thank you.
Say, Abby,
So,
congratulations.
I will, absolutely.
Saturday morning.
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, absolutely. Just message me. So,
Okay. That's pretty much it for my part. Next one on the list is Eric.
Well, it's me. I had a piece of paper with my notes. The Parks Committee met on Monday night. They're looking for more clarification on, and I think when I read your report, Bob Harden already had a conversation with you regarding the hours. But we also discovered on Monday night that the new times, though they are posted on the doors were still open. So,
Yeah, we're still working on the box.
yeah, so I guess he went there one day and the top lock, the deadbolt lock was locked. I guess the bottom lock is on a timer inside the storage room, so that's what he has to do there. But if he had a conversation with you, then I'm not going to rehash the concerns about trying to get clarification for hours and how to handle things. And then there was also a request for enforcement of the parking from La Piece,
PS.
using the parking spaces when there's an event held at the building there. And people are not able to park to go, they are not able to park to go to the park because all the spaces are taken by people attending the events there. So if the PD can do it, and I know they're busy too, so it's a catch-22.
Pat,
Eric, do we know, I've seen the reservations for the park in Lafayette has a lot of reservations.
Yep.
Are they parking during the reservation times or are they parking not only during the reservation times, but also other times?
It wasn't, I didn't go back and ask that exact question. It was more of, they've gone down there when there's no one at the park, but all the spaces are filled. And there's an event going on, so people are overflowing into those 12 spaces or so. Which if they reserve the park, then it's a little confusion on the whole thing there. So, but that was all I had for this week.
okay, thank you very much. John?
Yes, I think. Try to keep the paperwork moving. Okay, so last weekend we had the cleanup of the trails. And that went really well. And we picked up from like Salmon Run, I was participating in that part, all the way up to the hotel there at 140. And of all of the trash, and it was picked up down in the woods off the side and down to the river. Surprisingly, there was about 3 bags tops, and they weren't even full. So the whole trail and the sides of it were actually very, very clean and well kept.
Nice.
Ken Norton and a few other people worked and fixed some of the fence where trees came down on it. I think there was 2 pieces that were fixed. There were a bunch of people that volunteered and they brought some tractors. They took a huge load, dump truck load of the stone dust like stuff and replaced the washed out sections and fortified the trails along there. You know, Kathy Mitchell and I, we pruned the brush along the sides. And also, I don't know if you're all familiar with the oak tree down there.
Mhm.
Okay, anybody's seen that? We also cleared out around that, so it's very visible to there. And yeah, it's in nice shape, and there was a lot of people using it, riding bikes on it, families, electric bikes, pedal bikes. Ran into 4 fishermen that were walking up there to go in fishing. So it's a very well used trail. It's really in nice shape and clean. It wasn't, you know, there's a lot of these misgivings that there's like needles and beer cans and liquor and things like that. It's just all scattered about the woods and all that around there. And it's not so, it's actually really nice shape. So I hope more people will be able to use it and enjoy it. I did talk to Abe a little bit about making a video of it, you know, with like, you know, on the bikes, you know, maybe with some of the police officers and other families and that, and riding up so that there would be like a GoPro video. And he said perhaps in the aerial video that would show the trail. And so people be more attracted to use it. You know, it's actually very beautiful. It's a great public asset.
Great idea.
Did
Was
that.
he receptive to that?
Who was that?
Was Abe receptive?
I just asked if I could borrow a bike, and he went right into the whole thing. Oh yeah, we're gonna do this, we'll do that. It's great. So yeah, he's pretty anxious. So he's on that. Let's see, other things. I didn't know if there was a way to get an access door to get out to the island because the rose bushes that were planted in that for, a memorial or really need to be taken care of. And also the lights, the timer, they're on when I came in now. So they're daylight savings, and perhaps it would be better off to have them on a light timer instead of a dial timer, because it's like to what, 8:30 now? Moved to the clock. It's pretty bright out.
5 o'clock is daylight too in the morning.
And they were on.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it's a lot of work to change it because, back and
Cross that off
forth.
my list.
So maybe the electric eye, I think we put it somewhere else. And then that way, wouldn't have to keep going out there and adjusting it. But I didn't know if Kevin could put a padlocked door.
I don't think, per the insurance company, because that, bridge is supposed to be closed until we get the temporary bridge.
Closed to public, not employees or anything like that.
I mean, if you remember, the board, because I had a question from the fire department, what happens if there's an emergency? Will we have access to the island? And I went back to the insurance company, and they said it's a very tricky situation, because if we say, yes, they have access, and something happens, we're responsible. What the chances are of that, I don't know. I do know that it's, that's what we're being told. I'm not an expert on bridges. So what we said to what the insurance company advised was that for the fire department to say to them, we won't impede you, but we're not saying you can't. So that protects us. So at this point, going over there, I would say go over in a canoe or something, to get over the island. But at the end of the day, it's all up to you. I'm just telling you what the insurance company, has advised.
Would it be shorter to go over from the Northfield side? No. I never
There's no
been.
bridge over there either.
Well, I know, but if you went canoe.
If you kayaked from Ernie's,
Yep.
you could stop on the island, do everything you needed to do, and then get out at Riverfront Park.
Okay.
It's a thing.
Yeah, it's just, I would need to coordinate with somebody, 2 cars, or to get the
Yeah,
kayak in.
try.
So I don't know, if it's Saturday morning or something.
Seems like there's some reason, we'll talk.
Okay.
We'll talk.
Yeah, I just
Like-
want to see if
Yep.
we can do a little clipping on them and just to keep them going. And the other thing was, went to the Historical Society's meeting. Big turnout there. They're doing really well. They've got some more T-shirts that they're going to be printing, and they'll be setting up at the Old Home Day. They have quite the extensive collection, and I encourage anybody to take a look at their website of photographs that they're scanning in and making available. And then the trustees of Park Cemetery were looking for some assistance with their gazebo that's on there. It's a historical gazebo, and perhaps it was moved over from the deer park. They couldn't figure exactly where in town it was moved from. And they were looking for some assistance to get it painted. It's in pretty rough shape, and it's over by, I don't know if anybody's been over there to see the Civil War graves and veterans' graves that are over there, and was used for playing like taps on it and that. So they'll look for some volunteers to help out with that. We're going to talk to Home Depot and Lowe's and see if, maybe they can help out along with that, get that done. They're having some trouble just trying to maintain the cemetery and keep it mowed on a real regular basis, just because I think they pay $10 an hour. And, that's what their budget is. So, we might want to, see if we can get something else going to maintain a little bit better, because it's
It's only
just,
one guy that does it.
yeah, and
He's out
he's,
there constantly.
and as some of the people, they start getting older and they can't that going, but all in all, it's, they're doing their best, and it looks pretty good, it's hanging in there. That's about it.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
First on my list is the flags that we have out here in front of the Honda. The flag has slipped down the flag pole itself, and it's wrapped around the bottom of the flag pole, and the flag actually is ripped.
Yep.
You got that?
We know that. So basically what happened, because we talked to Kevin about the other day, the utility company put in a new pole, and they then put the flag holder back on, but they put it on too high. So Kevin can't access it with the equipment he's got, and he has found, he's working with somebody to get a bucket truck so he can get up there and fix it, but he's aware of it, but that's what the problem is. So.
Got it. All right.
Don't you stuff for climbing poles still? Maybe you could.
Thank you. I gave my books up a long time ago. The trees downtown in front of the different businesses, some of them are overgrown to a point where you can't see the businesses. So you're driving downtown, you can't see the windows, or you can't see the signs, and it seems to be more on this side than the opposite side. I recall that we were going to have the chippers or somebody look at pruning some of that, and I don't know if they did, and this is a result of it, or we didn't do it. I'm not real sure. But I know this was a topic of a discussion a couple years ago.
We
I know
did trim the trees downtown, but trees grow.
these dwarf trees that are way outgrown.
They are bigger than what I thought they were gonna be.
Is that something that economic development is looking into as far as the trees and things like that? And either replacing them or doing something with them?
I don't know if Eric wants to speak to it. I know Scott wanted to have a conversation with the board about it.
Oh, but we can wait then, when he's back, or unless Eric wants to talk.
No, because I would like to have pictures.
Mhm.
I don't have,
I didn't hear.
I wanted to have, I'd like to have pictures so you can see what we're discussing.
Okay.
So maybe we can have that for the next meeting and put it on.
I know it's been a bone of contention for all businesses, the beauty shops down at the end on the right. They've complained over the years because you can't see the signs or anything like that. And I just, driving through the other day, I thought of it and I wanted to bring it up. The other thing is the Senior Center Executive Committee, we received a resignation from one of our members, Emily LaPlante. This is effective June 30th. So I will make a motion with regret to accept the resignation of Emily LaPlante effective June 30th. Go ahead.
I guess before discussion, you have to
Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, seconded by Eric.
Emily will still stay on. She still works for Community Action Program during the day, during the some of the days, and she fills in for Cindy when she goes on for vacation, so she's there for the whole week as well. She'll continue with the music program on Wednesday evenings. She'll continue with that program on Wednesday evenings. But as far as being on the executive committee, she's been with us since the inception of the Tilton Senior Center. So amazing asset to all of us and to the seniors in the senior center. But according to, quote her, it's time to move on.
Is there any other?
No, she just clarified all my questions because I thought she was resigning from her position, not just as an executive,
She
as a board
has a
member.
small part-time paid position from Community Action.
And
Then she'll
Wednesday
con-
nights is her baby.
And Wednesday night she'll continue, and that's a separate entity from the Tilton Senior Center and from the Senior Center. It's their entire entity. And what they do there is, it's amazing with all of the musicians that come, but she's the mainstay in cooking, and they sell whatever, hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever. But that money, she returns back to the senior center in some way, like the freezer that they bought, whatever. It's always returning something back to the senior center. So she's just amazing in doing that. Her and Iris.
Is there any other discussion? Well, I will say that Emily the Plant is a star in my world. I've got the opportunity to work with her on numerous projects that she's been involved with, and she's helped me a lot with the concert series. And she'll be missed, but I understand that things change. God knows. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
With that note in your file, we do have, and it had absolutely nothing to do with the resignation, this other one came before it. There is an application for an alternate in the signage. And I do want to talk with the board, but I would like to talk with the full board going forward with the Tilton Senior Executive Committee members. So perhaps next meeting, we could set aside some time to do that. The other question is, what time on Old Home Day, what time is startup? When do we meet for the parade?
The parade is gonna be operated just the way it always has been. And I can't recall the exact timing. I think we're over there at 9 and leaving at 10. But I'll get with Deb Shepherd and clarify that, get that information to Gail.
So then we need to know how many selectmen are going to attend, and then if they're bringing anybody else, because I'll go out on Friday and purchase the candy.
Are you thinking dump truck? Yeah.
That's a lot of candy in a dump truck.
Oh, no, I've seen a lot of candy in the dump truck.
We have the bags. We purchased the bags last year.
Eric's been up there.
No, we have not done Old Home Day in my
That's
tenure.
right.
Really? All right, well, then
The
you're
last
gonna
two
love it.
So we buy the
Parade.
candy and
I am a rookie in my
put
third
it in
year as a
bags.
selectman.
Parades are my favorite thing about it.
I was at the Christmas parade this year, but everything was frozen and everything broke
Yeah.
when it was gently placed off.
So we
To the
kind of do the
hand to the
same thing,
children.
but it's a little bit better, and we don't buy chocolate
No.
It melts and mushes.
Oh, yes. that I know.
unless we eat it before it gets off the bus.
Well, there should be a special bag just for that.
That's right.
I'd be up for that.
Is that it, Pat?
Kit
Well, I
Kats.
just wanted to know how many.
Kit
Oh,
Kats.
well, I'm going.
I'll
for
be
sure.
Yeah,
Kyoko's unavailable, so it's just me.
It'll be just me.
just you. It'll be me and one other.
I need someone to
person.
cheer for me, so.
Is Andrew coming this year? No?
I'll ask him.
Well, ask him if he wants to be my guest. Joe Jetson's +1. Andrew could be my +1.
Why?
We've done this.
Yeah.
Andrew and I have done candy
Yeah,
several times.
yeah, I've done it too with Andrew.
Maybe I'll have one of my kids do it. Put me down for +1.
So, all right, so 5,
A dump truck full.
3, 8. Okay. All right, I'll be in to see Jeannie and Gail for the card and go to BJ's. Okay,
Be prepared for sticker shock when you go look at candy.
well,
Everything is.
I go within a budget, so we'll have to
You won't get as
hand them
much as
out
you can.
according to the budget.
Everyone's
Yeah.
got 2 pieces.
Yes,
That's the
you
way
can
it
only
is.
get what you get.
Get what we get.
It's share
One for you, one for you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, they're sweet tarts. We can rip them in half. You each get a sweet tart.
Sweet tarts. The next up on the agenda is the town administrator's report.
So last time we met, I handed out the revised personnel policies and employee manual. I don't know if you want to put this off until the 30th since the chair is not here. There were, basically, you got an updated document that incorporated all the changes from last time. The 3 outstanding issues that I want to bring to your attention is the first, there was a section in there under employee classification regarding elected appointed positions and a definition, if you remember, in a posting. It seemed very odd, and I checked with Primex, their HR person, asking, why that was, because this is an employee handbook and elected and appointed officials are not employees. So I removed it. I'm not sure how it got in there, or why it got in, but I took it out. The other item was the social media policy that I know Selectman Constantino wanted to have a conversation about. And the other item was the compensation, or not compensation, comp time. So right now, and at the last meeting, you remember, there was a discussion about the regular employees having at least the same benefit as union employees. And there are union employees who get comp time. When we look at who we're really talking about here at town hall for comp time, it would not affect any of the salaried people, because it just doesn't apply to us unless Tim's gonna say something else. We have 2 part-time people, and we have 2 regular full-time employees that it could benefit them if this board decided you wanted to do that. Other than that, it's the DPW folks who, if the department head calls them in during a snow event or some emergency, even if they didn't work 40 hours, that was the change that was incorporated so that they would get that comp time, even if they didn't work a 40-hour week, but if they were called in by the department head. So if you agree with that, then that piece is off the table. And the only other question is for those 2 employees who are full-time employees who, let's say, I think most recently there was a holiday, and an employee, if they had stayed to help with something that we needed help with, they wouldn't get the comp time because they hadn't worked a 40-hour week. Correct?
Right. They weren't going to receive overtime.
Right, they wouldn't have received overtime.
They would have still been paid time and a half, correct?
No.
No,
No,
because the holiday fell on the week.
So really that's, it was a note that was in the document before I got it. So obviously this board had been talking about it. I don't know what the, the history of it is. So those are really and the social media policy, that's a bigger discussion. So I don't know where you want to go.
The social media policy, when, I don't know where you got this from. So I'm gonna just ask this question because I have no idea where you got this from, but has this been vetted through like Primex or anybody like that?
So I looked at a lot of different social media policies and there are some that are very detailed and very complex. And I chose one that I thought was more of an overall, simplified version of ones that had been vetted. And that's what you have in front of you. And again, if you don't want it in the, in the employee handbook, that's fine. But that's what other, as you look at other municipalities, what they're doing, and what's out there, what's happening these days.
My only concern, and it's merely a concern, it has nothing to do with personal here to this town or anything else. It's other corporations, and particularly the one that I used to work for, tried to implement a social media policy, but civil liberties came on them with some charges because they had restrictions that were against people's civil liberties.
Yeah.
And so I'm cautious about saying, yay, I believe that there should be a social media policy, but I just am very cautious to make sure that we're vetting this through the necessary places where we should be so that we are covered and make sure that we're not stepping on people's civil liberties.
And we're not.
Okay.
This has been, there's, public employees have actually more rights, as you know, free speech than others, even in the private sector. But this is very specific about, not talking about work-related activities and that has, that's within the employee, you have the right to do that. And I forgot one other issue that I know we talked about, and I think I heard from one selectman, don't recall hearing from all selectmen, so I'll just bring that up again because I'm still seeing it in the listserv, is the Juneteenth.
Is the what?
Juneteenth, it's a federal holiday. I think, I just want clarification, whether to pull it out or what, just some.
Is it a state holiday?
It's recognized, but I don't believe it's a state holiday, so.
State employees do not get that day off?
I don't think so. I'll check on that, Joe, that's a good question.
If the state doesn't recognize it,
Yeah.
then I'm hesitant to.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm trying to think. I don't think I've seen that in the state, anything from the state.
But the federal employees get it, correct?
Yes, and it's whoever, and I don't remember whatever selectman said it the last time, we do all the federal holidays. We follow the
It
federal.
is.
Huh?
Says here that it is now a state holiday.
It is,
Recently signed a bill declaring Juneteenth.
right. It might be a
A
state
state
holiday, but are they recognizing it with the day off? Does New Hampshire?
Yes, Monday, June 20th. Well, it is a state holiday.
Right,
Oh, what's-
but do they give the day off? That's,
They're notorious for that.
I mean, I think there's some other, might be some other, I can't think it right off the top of my head, but other holidays that they recognize, but they don't give the day off.
So how would that work if the state does that and we say, and the board says yes, then contractually, we have contractual people that's not in there in contractual.
We can still give it to them.
Mm-mm.
I'll bet you
What's
they
that?
would.
The holiday.
Yeah, you can't give it to them. I think you can give them better. You can't give them less.
You can give them better, you can't give them less.
That's what
Yeah,
I said.
well, giving them this holiday would be better
Better.
for them.
Well, I'm reading a memo dated July 19th, 2021 from the state of New Hampshire, and it states that though it is a federal holiday, it is not, they are not paid holidays for state employees, and it says Juneteenth.
Number of states also recognize it as a state legal holiday. Most states honor it as a day of observance, right? Okay, so what states recognize it as a paid holiday? So it's Connecticut, Colorado, Georgia, Maryland, South Dakota, Utah, and Washington. So there you go. New Hampshire does not recognize it as a paid holiday.
If they decide to recognize it as a paid holiday, I'd be willing to have this conversation again, but at this point, I'm enough.
Can I get just from everyone?
I'm kind of the same with Joe.
Yes, okay, good, all right. And then back to, kind of diverted there, but back to the comp time discussion.
The what now?
Comp time. So again, I think if you agreed with what I believe was in the manual, change in the manual, which was basically DPW folks who are called in by their supervisor for snow emergency or any kind of an emergency. And you know now, I think I sent you an email that the governor, actually there is law now, RSA, that recognizes DPW workers as first responders. So my understanding is from, and Tim, you may have been involved in it, so please weigh in. It was before me. And my understanding is that we put language, or you put language in the revised employee manual that said, if they're called in by the department head in DPW to work, even if they don't work 40 hours, they'll get paid time and a half.
Mhm.
That's right. If it was designated,
Right.
required or emergency by the department.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's just for DPW workers,
Right,
first
that-
responder.
That was in the document. That change had been made, but it hadn't been ratified because we're doing that now. So that's that's part one. And then part two is you have, so before I go to part two, is everybody good with part one?
Is that a snow emergency or any emergency?
I think that could be whatever you want it to be. I mean, I don't think in the policy and I don't think it says only snow emergency. I think it's just.
I would say any emergency,
Right.
because you could have a tree down. You know what I mean? You could have an accident.
Have a windstorm come
Yeah,
through, a
like
thunderstorm come in.
We've had those.
Tornado, whatever.
Something that the department head would have to designate.
Right.
Because it would be,
Right.
it could potentially be paid before it would ever be brought to the board.
I'm
I'm okay with it.
I'm a yes.
Okay, so the next part was comp time for, essentially, you're talking about 2 employees that are administrative employees that are the only, I shouldn't say the only ones, but we have such different categories of employees. We have part-time, we have full-time administrative, we have a lot of salaried, which it wouldn't apply to. So it's just those 2 administrative employees. If a situation were that they, it was a holiday, So they only worked 32 hours that week because of the holiday, but they were called in, let's say, they had to stay late, I don't know, to work on the budget. I don't know what it might be. Would they, should they get time and a half? So,
I like the idea of emergency and first responders or anybody that responds to an emergency. You know, we had to call employees in because of some disaster type thing, and they should get it. If their supervisor declares an emergency situation.
And I think you all agreed to that. I was just asking about the second part now.
No, that's what.
Oh, so you're okay with the first, but not the second?
I'm okay with any employees, provided that it is an
Okay.
emergency situation and not just working extra hours.
But see, the police get that anyway.
And as I said, emergency responders.
But I don't think the two, if I'm on the right track with the two employees that you're thinking of, I don't think they're going to be called for necessarily for an emergency, but the workload or a deadline may say they need to work, into the night to get the job done.
Right.
And they should be treated the same. Like if, okay, Memorial Day, it's like, sometimes it's like, on the 30th, so now Tuesday, the 31st is gonna push them because you gotta get month-end stuff, and, otherwise the financial guy is gonna come after you because you didn't get your month-end stuff done. And if they have to work late, they should be compensated the same.
I'm solid no. And I'll tell you what, I don't see any of these circumstances rearing its ugly head. I don't like the fact that the police have comp time. If they work over their allotted hours, they get paid time and a half. Or they could have comp time. I've never understood why one is better than the other. I'd rather keep it straight, pay them the time and a half. What possible scenario? If you're working over 40 hours in town hall for any reason, you would be paid time and a half. In any case. How would they not? So if they were sick on Monday and they had to work until 7 on Thursday, do you think that the difference between when they should have left and 7 should be a time and a half? Because when we have a holiday, town hall is closed.
So there's a benefit that says, we will pay you on a holiday. You've earned that. That's a benefit. It is a paid day. But yet, when you calculate, so Monday is a holiday. That's paid. You're paid the 8 hours or whatever you work, 8 hours, you're paid. So Tuesday you come in and you work 8 hours, you work 8 hours. Wednesday you come in and you work 8 hours, and your boss comes up to you and say, could you stay a little late? We're really working. We're under the deadline, as Eric says. I need you for about 3 hours. Can you work it? That should be overtime, but in reality, it's not, because he or she didn't physically work on Monday, but it was a benefit and it was a paid benefit. But because it's a paid benefit, that person loses out and doesn't get the
What if
time
they
and a
lose?
half.
They don't have to work on Monday. They get paid for 8 hours. And at a good wage, I'll tell you, fine and good. But to give them 3 hours overtime when they're only going to be physically working 32 hours.
But so the same employee right up the street, different department,
I don't like that either.
that
In the least.
doesn't work, well, listen to me, doesn't work on Monday, gets paid
paid for Monday because it's a holiday, comes in, works Tuesday, comes in, works Wednesday, and just the boss comes up, the chief comes up and says, well, listen, I need you to work a shift coverage for 4 hours. That employee gets overtime, but this employee over here doesn't.
Well, one's union, one's negotiated for it. And if we start having regular
union-
employees recognized by a union contract, then, it's,
So
you can't
then
have a
say,
vested interest in an employee having a vested interest in a union contract that another department has. It's a completely different thing. You're saying to match that.
The union does not represent the rank and file employees. They represent the police department.
I'm not saying that they do,
And I still don't.
but we've
like
always tried to give the same benefits
Not
to them.
necessarily.
Yes, we have.
No, we've given
Sometimes.
more raises to our employees than we have to the police department at times because of the contract. So are we saying when the police department contract is less, we're going to now pay our employees that aren't on the contract less because we're matching what's good for one employee and what's good for another? You can't
No,
say
we're
just
cutting the
because one
contract
department has a
early so we
union
can give them a
contract.
raise.
you can't
Okay, hold on.
You
Tim?
don't really, just to remind you, in town hall.
Yeah.
That are hourly.
Okay, so we've had a philosophical discussion about this. What is the final determination? Are we gonna pay time and a half under the holiday scenario? Or are we just gonna pay straight time? No employee has to work over their allotted hours. First responders do, but no other employee has to work over their allotted hours if they don't wanna work. And I don't believe anybody can say they do. I don't think.
Only emergency situation and declared emergency, it's. I've seen the situation get abused many, many times and we've all seen that. Where people shuffle hours around and then work extra and set it up so they can't get that. I can't.
What did I miss?
And well, we're still,
Shuffling hours around and being abused.
What's that?
Shuffling hours around and getting abused.
Well,
I've not ever seen that, so.
So I would take it from that comment that we are saying no to the comp time.
We haven't voted yet.
Oh, okay, sorry.
we're talking about time and a half over, in the holiday scenario. Paying time and a half, not comp time, time and a half. Comp time's a separate issue. And like I said, I'm a solid no. So if we're talking about comp time, what do you think about comp time? You want to approve comp time for?
We'll go back to the overtime first and then talk about comp time.
Okay, I'm a no on the overtime.
I'm a yes.
John?
I'm not for any changes in wages.
All right, so John's a no. Eric?
I'm a yes.
Okay, we have an impasse and we'll have to
Wait for
bring this up again at our next meeting. So, Gina,
comp time.
comp time is the next thing. I'm a solid no.
I'm a solid yes.
John?
Emergency only. Such as, now, are we talking about DPW? Are we talking across the board?
We're talking about two employees.
Two people here,
Oh,
town hall.
I don't care how many. I'm just asking it's DPW or other, because
Other.
I do not want to attach it to
Yeah,
specific
other.
people. Any employees, I don't care if there's 1 or 50. So
Other.
other employees, no. Only emergency. I would be for it if there was an emergency, some type of disaster where they needed to come in,
I have no
a
idea.
fire or a flood or something,
I don't know what.
just emergency.
I'm a yes.
Okay, we have an impasse, and we'll bring it up at our very next meeting and have this rousing discussion one more time.
Okay, social media policy, we didn't really discuss that. Is that something you want to discuss? You want to hold off until?
Let's have Scott here.
Mr. Chairman, can we get like a little consensus on, just wondering.
Absolutely. Pat, you want to talk about social media?
Start somewhere else.
I'll start.
Go ahead, Eric.
I believe in having a social media policy. That's all I'm gonna say.
Like, is that, okay, go ahead.
Oh, no.
You got it.
No, well, I'm for it. You know, I understand the variance, but I think it's, you know, the company I work for, we have a social media policy, and I understand I work in the private sector, not the public sector, but I think it's important to be there. It's not like they sit there and go, oh, you know, you posted this on, you know, Facebookagram.
Do you want me to read what I have for the social media
Mhm.
policy?
Please.
Postings on social networking sites such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, MySpace, and YouTube, as well as on blogs, have become a common activity. The town neither encourages nor discourages any of its employees from posting on social networking sites or blogging on their own time using their own equipment. However, employees should be aware that these postings are public. Even if access to them is restricted, they may be forwarded out of the restricted group by those who have rightful access and could live on virtually forever. Employees need to be mindful of potential damage from such postings to their own reputation and interests, as well as the reputations and interests of the town, co-workers, and the entities and individuals we serve. The town recognizes the growing use by town departments to use these social networking sites to communicate and to take public input. Improper use may lead to disciplinary action as outlined in the personnel policies. Only designated personnel authorized by the town administrator may post on behalf of the town. And it doesn't need to be me. So I'm just taking it from the other one. So don't let that hold you up. Unless you have been specifically authorized to do so, you are not permitted to make any statements on social media that purport to be on behalf of the town of Tilton, authorized by the town of Tilton, or an official capacity of the town of Tilton. Remember, this is for employees. Unless you have been specifically authorized to do so, you are not permitted to use any of the town's equipment and or devices to access social media. When you are on duty, you are expected to devote your full attention and efforts to completion of your work. As such, while you are on duty, you are not permitted to access social media on your own device without the prior consent of your immediate supervisor. Understand that even when you are off duty, your use of social media may still be subject to scrutiny by the town. As such, whether on duty or off duty, you are not permitted to disclose on social media any legitimate confidential records, communications, and or proceedings of the town of Tilton. Additionally, the town reserves a right to take disciplinary action against you up to and including possible termination in the event that you use your social media, whether on duty or off duty, unduly interferes with the town's legitimate interests as an employer in managing the workplace. So basically what I get from that is you're not allowed to do any of this stuff while you're at work, which seems to be pretty simple. That seems
We
like.
can cut it down. That's all we're saying.
Well, no, there are two pieces. I mean, there are three pieces to it. What the first part is kind of preachy, you know, like the second part is you're not to do this on town time using town equipment. And the third part is you can't say anything about, confidential information. If somebody learns something, I don't know, let's say in a non-public or even in the office, you are not allowed to go out on social media and talk about that. That's town business. You're not allowed to do it. Social media.
But talking about dump day or dump days changed because of the holiday, that's fine.
Again, this is employees, it's not elected.
Well, I'm talking about employees. So let's say an employee, someone in the neighborhood posts, my garbage didn't get picked up today. And somebody in town hall replies back and said, no, it's not, because there was a holiday on Monday. It's going to get picked up tomorrow.
I wouldn't see any reason why you discipline.
Okay.
Well, I can, because the only way they would know is they were at work. All right, and how would they know who posted what if they were at work? Unless they went
She's
on
not-
social media.
She's not saying when it was posted, it's just in
Right.
general. I could be
Could be at
sitting,
5 o'clock at night.
Okay, all right, as long as they're on their time.
Right.
but I don't, I mean, we're not
And that's
sitting.
not detrimental to the town of Tilton or its interest. I kind of agree with the spirit of the last two sections. But have it, post whatever you want. God bless America, First Amendment and all that. So, I mean, it would have to really pick out a type of speech that you're trying to prohibit. And I don't want to be on the side of any kind of prohibition about what people could say.
Tim,
John?
I think, exactly, and I agree with you on that. You referred to the first part, but do remember that in the first part, it says you must be mindful, not that you can't. Does it say that? So it doesn't say you're prohibited. It said be mindful of what you say. So that means, yeah, that was on my mind, bad, good or bad. So be
Selectmen
mindful,
adjourn.
just think of the repercussions that could have at it.
But then the second paragraph says if you do it, you'll get,
If you do what? If you do specific things,
yeah.
release unlawful information.
Well, let's say someone
Records or-
takes a picture of something with their cell phone and they post it in a private conversation. And in that, it clearly states that keep in mind that it can be released outside of that. So if, Tim and I were having a conversation and, he took a picture of something that he saw, and I see that now in there, it clearly states that be mindful that it could be that. And then, so, all of a sudden now Tim's in trouble because, I'm like, went, as if someone went to someone in town hall and said, hey, this was sent to me. Oh, I thought it was a private conversation. It's not.
I mean, that's actually a good point because there's a couple of sites that are in Facebook that has to do with towns, with our towns, and that people post things. Our chairman is very diplomatic in responding to that. Okay, and I know that he's exempt because he's an elected official. But what if a town employee added something to that? Added another post to that? Because he's already started the reply.
But there is also language in here that says unless you have been specifically authorized to do so, you are not permitted to make any statements on social media that's purport to be on behalf of the town of Tilton. So let me give you an example in my community. So let's say the selectmen really don't want a paid fire department. They want to keep their volunteer fire department. But the fire chief really wants, and he goes on social media and says, the selectmen really do want this.
Well, if they lie on social media, we already have rules against lying.
But I don't know, let me change it a little bit then. Let's say the selectmen are thinking about it and they're saying, yes, maybe they're going to, but the fire chief gets on social media and says they're going to, but the selectmen haven't authorized him to do anything. He's had a conversation with them, and it could be in public, in a public meeting where they're talking about it, but he goes on social media and purports to be speaking on behalf of the selectmen, on behalf of the town by saying that. And maybe that's not an issue. Maybe it's not an issue. And
Or tries to influence the selectmen by putting pressure on them.
right, through social media. But I mean, can you think of any instances, Tim? I mean, and maybe it's not necessary, but again, the way this started is looking what other communities are doing, just like Juneteenth, just like social media policy, what they're adding to their policies. If this board doesn't want to do that, it's fine. Maybe it's not a problem. Maybe
Have we ever had issues with social media and postings?
I don't think with employees.
I'm not a big fan of social media, by the way. I'm not on it that
I
often.
had something that was ancillary to that, where an employee was reporting to be someone else and making complaints about a board
Oh,
many years ago.
okay.
I think before anyone on this board was on the board.
Before me?
Yep.
Oh, that's ancient.
That was back in MySpace times.
It led to federal investigation.
Okay.
Social media, I can't, I'd have to think. I think there have been a few missteps, but.
Do you think it's necessary?
Yeah, no, I do. I do.
You're saying which portion? The whole thing or?
I
Can't force it if you don't have it.
Yeah, I think what it does more than anything to me is it makes people aware that they need to be mindful of, how they represent themselves as employees. That's the way I look at it, but.
I think that's with any company you work for. You really can't go out and badmouth the company that you're working for, that's one that's giving you the paycheck. I mean,
Just about every company has them now.
I think that,
Get rid of the MySpace reference.
what I would do is I would get rid of the whole first paragraph.
that's the one I like.
Seriously?
Yeah,
I like.
I do.
Oh, okay.
Because it's really telling them, this is why we're doing this. This is what you really have to think about.
It's just saying, think about what you do before you do it.
It's unusual. It's the only thing that's really different from this employee manual is this.
Yeah.
Maybe it's now, if you decide to go forward with this, there would be a separate policy statement that you can sign that we would draft up, right?
Right.
That would be addition, in your policies and procedures, whatever.
An addendum.
But the language seems out of place in my mind compared to everything else in the employee manual. But I'm okay if, whatever you want.
Is there a way that we can get a temperature gauge with employees or no?
I think you want to take the lead on this.
Okay, got it.
I don't want to make a policy by taking polls.
Yeah, no, it wasn't really kind of a poll, just like a temperature thing. Yeah, I'm
Do you,
for
we
it.
can, and you can wait, we can wait till Scott.
But we gotta
comes
wait
back.
for Scott anyway, because it's a huge decision. My opinion, anyway.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, so next action, can I move on?
But
Please.
but
Please do.
Next action item, election hours for September, November. You remember the former moderator, Chuck Mitchell, was in to see the selectmen to ask them to consider expanding the poll hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We did that 1 year or for one election. Selectmen never formally voted on this. I think there seemed to be some agreement there. We went back and checked and there was no vote. Then after that, I spoke with the town clerk just to get her opinion on it. And she advised that she prefers the current hours of 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I do seem to remember that when we did the 7 to 7, they had monitored how many people came in at that 1 hour. And I don't recall it being a lot of people, but
Well, nobody knew.
we
I remember when we did
Yeah, it
7 to
was
7.
advertised, but how many
Yeah.
people knew?
once.
Not that many.
But I think
Some
it depends,
they
like
came in early.
state midterm elections, I think you're
I
gonna get a
mean,
lot of people.
I would, and remember, I think it's 30, 60 days out. This board has ability to change the hours, but I think what he was asking was just to change them going forward to 7 to 7. But in an election where they're predicting a lot of people, and I think that might have been the one that changed.
Presidential or.
Yeah, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But, so I just wanted to circle back and I just, because she had to post something and I told her just do what we are normally and I'd come back to the board and find out if they want to change it. And if they do, she can go ahead and change the posting, but it's 8 to 7 now, so.
How does the current town moderator feel about the change? We have a new town moderator.
We do have a new town moderator and I have not asked her. And I'm happy to do that.
I would rather ask,
Okay.
see if that works for her. She's a new town moderator. So.
I can do that. Does everybody?
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. Okay, so the last we left it on the barricade to the Tilton Island Bridge, we were gonna, Scott thought he might find some of the students who could paint a mural. It turns out they're not going to be around, so that is not an option. I want to try to find somebody, if you want this painted, to find an artist who would do something, and wanted to ask the board. I don't know that it would be needed, but I want to know if I have some flexibility, if I find somebody who says they want to, but they're looking for a stipend. Yes,
It would depend on the stipend.
well,
Right.
I think I have it in here.
$200 to $500.
How many, yes?
Yep.
Does that include materials?
No, I can't imagine.
Could be another 150.
Well, we would provide those. Yes, you're right.
We would provide it anyway.
Right.
No matter what.
Check with Sheena, Duncan.
Right, and that's what I would do in it.
I
And she may,
just check with Sheena. She's an exceptional artist and she's local girl.
well, that was my thought.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
a yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yes.
I mentioned.
Okay, all right. Riverfront Park bathrooms, hours of operation. The board had voted on 5 o'clock. Kevin had suggested that the bathrooms stay open until 7 o'clock in the summer because there's still a lot of activity at the park. And we did go ahead and post it till 5. And I told him I'd come back and check with the board on leaving it open till 7. And then Bob Hardy sent an email and asked how it would be handled when there was a reservation that runs past 5 PM. So
How many reservations do we get that's past 5 PM?
Yes. I agree. If there's a reservation, they should have use of the bathroom. And I also am in favor of the 7 PM cutoff time, but I want to know what that looks like and who's going to lock that door.
right, I would guess it'd be somebody from the Parks Commission, right?
But the Park Commission didn't set the hours for the bathroom, so they expect the Park Commission, unless they volunteer,
Yeah.
I mean, to go down there. John?
Yeah, I mentioned at the previous meeting, we had a timer on it. There's a timer on the lock,
Yes,
so
there
that,
is.
yeah,
Oh,
so that
well,
would have
there
to
you
be
go.
set. And
We
then
just set it at 7.
I guess, have to find out if somebody wants it past a certain hour, we have to make arrangements, 7 to 7.
Well, they have to
Good.
get with the selectmen's office to get the use of the park.
Right.
So we can set that up then.
Did we figure out, did Kevin follow up on the dryer?
Yeah. So we've, he's in, Gail did some research on it. She and Kevin have been working on it. They found a dryer that would be hardwired. And I think it was like $500. So
Mhm.
they're for a 2-pack. So that's been ordered to be installed.
No trash either. From them.
At the bathroom?
Gets rid of a lot of trash.
Oh, hair dryer.
Right.
Yeah, the air dryer. So there's no,
Yeah, no more.
no
Of
more.
course, I'll bet you it doesn't take 6 months to get ripped off the wall. I'm just saying, they ought to put that thing up there solid. Too bad. Okay, Jeannie,
Okay. So next item, Town Hall Readiness Program for Tilton. I did send out an email to the board. I heard back from a couple, but obviously that's not something, it's something that needs to be the board together. It's a, decision. Do you want something like that? This is in the wake of Texas. I was at an event and had a conversation with the Homeland Security, Jen Harper, and she was telling me that she had just sent out a letter to the schools on how to prepare for this kind of event. And I said, well, what have you done for town halls? Because could be just as susceptible. I hadn't thought about that. We haven't looked at that. So I asked her to send it to the NHMA, the letter, and she did, and NHMA sent it out to all the towns. And so my question to the board is, are you interested in having me work with the police department to have some kind of readiness program for a town hall?
I'm a solid yes on that one. I've taken
Yeah,
part in active.
in-house, I think they know it better. than, outside.
I've been
Yeah.
involved in the active
Yeah.
shooter program over at the school. I was the active shooter one
You
day.
gotta wait.
you do it at the outlet. You do it at the outlets too.
Yeah, I did it at the outlets
You
too.
gotta wait. too.
But the training that they get is definitely, you don't want to walk into that blind. I certainly don't think you want to walk into that blind.
Okay.
So I'm a yes on that.
I'm sorry, I missed that email. Yes, I'm a yes.
Scott? Eric, rather?
Must have been when
Sorry.
Tim had my email.
Scott usually sits beside me.
Yes, I'm a yes.
Yes.
All right, next item. Town hall had a power outage, which impacted our alarm system, main go security, recommending system upgrades and replacing the panic buttons. I have approval for $1,500. This was $1,673. So I,
Yes.
Where does that money come from?
Town hall maintenance and repairs.
But she has 1,500. We have more than that in there.
I have approval to authorize without coming to the board.
I see.
So this was 1,600, so
Yeah, but I'm a yes. Eric? John,
Oh, he can't.
John abstains.
Yeah. we can't.
So is that a?
That's a yes.
Yes.
Yep.
You see my FYIs. I sent you a picture of the Winnisquam Market. You should have copies in your file. This is what they did.
But do we have an actual, deed,
Well,
how much we own?
I actually talked to Joyce today about that because this was something I think she was heavily involved in.
Yep.
And we did find the paperwork late this afternoon. So, she said that she had thought Kraus had done the survey, but it looks like somebody by the name of Behringer, if we have the right thing. So we've got to look at it a little bit more.
Tim Bernier?
That might be it.
Yeah, Tim Bernier, yeah.
So I haven't looked at it, so I didn't want to bring it forward until I looked at it, but that's where we're at.
So this is the tiny parcel. I think that once Jeannie gets the information, it's a very small piece of.
Well, we own the parking place up until 2 feet from the building, or 3 feet from the building.
We own the parking spaces where the cars are. You see where the cars are? Yeah.
That's right.
And all the way up to the condominium association, we had it surveyed right up to their fence.
Yep.
And that where their shrubs are and the whole width of that road that we own, because we had that all surveyed and did that. And we'd actually made a decision to remove the shrubs and that on a as available for time basis and install parking spaces there. But that public works director is not with us and it never did get.
So that sign is on our property.
Their sign, everything, that total pole.
Well,
The pole and everything is on our property.
so it should be a good poll.
Going on.
But we just haven't done anything about it because it wasn't an issue. But it's available and kind of protects everybody from building on it so that if we ever did want to add additional parking spaces there or something like that, we have every right to.
So if we don't want to figure out turning this over to them, if we want to keep it at ours, then we should probably not allow someone to change the geography of it.
That doesn't make sense to me. Geography is its physical location.
So this is ours,
Okay,
but they put the walkway in.
well, they shouldn't have done that.
I didn't look.
So what I'm saying is this piece here, if we're never going to use this and we know that it's no purpose to us, then
Let them buy it.
let them buy it. If not, then we should tell them they shouldn't be changing
Correct.
the land. One way or the other, we need to do this.
Well, we gave them
And I'm in
permission.
favor of turning it over.
They came to the planning board with a complete review of it. It was brought up that that was a town right away, and they'll give them permission to do that so that they could park on there. Yes, we may not use it now. We don't know in the future, that we may want to use that. We may be more demand for parking.
They were
Different owner.
given permission to tear down the building that they own, which used to be the old motorcycle building or the old post office,
There's
if
a
you will,
number of things.
which was theirs, but this piece that they put the walkway in is not.
The gravel walkway.
Hmm?
The gravel walkway. So, no, I mean,
So you have a town piece, you either give them permission to do something, which you okay, do that. Or you say, all right, this is no longer needed for us, one way or another. It has to be documented.
Yes.
When somebody changes your land, you need to document that. As a selectman, you need to say, okay, we give you permission to do this, or we don't give you permission to do
To
that.
put the gravel on.
Correct.
On the path there.
One way or another, and it's not, it doesn't, when we looked at this, the cost of changing in order to put parking there, we had to get the pole moved back. We can't move it back because it's their property now, okay? And that the cost of moving the pole back was way too cost effective for what we would gain 3 parking spaces
For the store.
for the
No,
store. Or, no, not only for the store, but for the lobster place in the condominiums.
And the,
No, there was about a dozen parking spaces that would be gained because it's all the way up to the lobster. We own that whole section through there.
But
And the
those
pole-
already exist though.
No.
This would be additional.
No, they don't exist.
In front of the condominium,
Mhm.
those are the condominiums, they're not ours.
They are.
We
Where the-
already,
Where those shrubs are, up to that stockade fence is town property. We had it surveyed. If you look through the minutes, the old meetings, we discussed this whole thing and about them moving their shrubs out and putting it in, and we authorized the public works department to go down there with the front end loader and start to remove the dirt and all that, and to put some gravel down until such time that we paved that whole section, when we would pave it and add the parking spaces. And we talked about the poles, and we'd leave the pole there, that's just like a little buffer.
so was it a dozen spaces? Or was it 3 or 4 spaces that we were gonna gain?
I would say it was like, I'm trying to remember, I think it was like over 5, and I think it was up to 10, 12, depending how they lined them up.
Well, I think it's probably all in that file, and if you just,
All right, we'll wait for that. We'll wait for you folks to get,
Like, personally, I cannot see giving away a piece of property that is potential parking spaces for
and that's
anybody out
fine.
there that we have problems with.
I'm fine with that, but then we get back to the owner and say, don't change our land. That's all.
Well, they got permission for the other part. I did not recall if they added the walkway on there or not.
They just did that.
So they might be grabbing.
The permission for the other part is their part, not ours. So where did they get the permission from?
planning board.
The planning board,
I would say that.
because it was their property.
Yeah.
Not ours. Nobody gave them permission to change our property.
Well, actually, they never
It was on the
presented
site plan.
a lot line per se. Now, those ones in front may well be owned by the town of Tilton. John says he'd seen the paperwork, so
Now you're getting it.
just because they had
Tim
permission.
Bernier did the, we need to look at the survey because he did it during that time when we found it.
All in the state, because that's where the
Right.
road used to be before they moved the
Right,
bridge.
exactly. And he did the survey recently, well, within the last, 5 years maybe. Right,
When we set up parking.
when Brock was here. Right,
Yeah, I think there was enough
yeah,
problems here. Just, so we should have a copy of all that.
yeah.
Okay, Jeannie.
that's all I got, unless you have any questions for me.
Cemetery. Can we put that on the agenda for next time so we can talk about that?
Yeah, I sent you all.
Yeah. We can just put that on the agenda so we can talk about it.
I think we need to do a cease and desist order. We know that this is not up cemetery. We know that it's illegal. We know that it's a criminal or felony for doing that. We can see from when we took the pictures before that the boundaries have been changed, which is against the law. And they went even further, installed the generator. That's right where the headstone was. and they dug a hole through it in the gas pipe. So if we knowingly, as the Board of Selectmen, are allowing somebody to commit something that's protected by an RSA, and we, as selectmen, are responsible for the maintenance of that cemetery. It's in the Reynolds book. We did take that on, and we are supposed to be maintaining it. And I would like to know why we're not taking any action
Why?
on this.
Why are we supposed to be maintaining it, John?
We have, it's on official record. After last week, looked into it. At the town clerk's office, that the town of Tilton took on the maintenance and is responsible for maintaining that cemetery.
So in the town hall here.
So Kim, let me just go further with that. If I have that paper, I'll show it to you. I'm not really sure. So Kim looked up the Rundle's book, which is the sort of the Bible which they kept record on for the cemeteries in Tilton.
What's the book called?
Rundle's,
Ronald.
Ronald.
Runnel. And in that book was a list that Cindy kept, and it listed the cemeteries and who maintained the cemeteries. And it looked like that list, I'm sorry, I thought I had it right here. Looked like the list came from 2000. And it said pretty clear, and it talked about all the different cemeteries. And it said who maintained it and so on and so forth in this list. And it said Philbrook Cemetery is town maintained.
So when did the town stop maintaining it?
Not sure, but I'm not even sure about the subject matter on this either. I mean, the whole thing with this. Because it talks about on page 1, it says May 1 of 2000, and who's buried there? Benjamin, Charlotte, and other Fieldstones. So there's, looks like 3 people, 1883 and 1862. And trying to get page 1. Okay, so this is the list, Tilton Cemeteries it's called, and it starts with 1, the Taylor Cemetery, and then it goes all over the Park Cemetery, the Gale Cemetery, the Josiah Philbrook, and on East Main Street, and then St. John's Cemetery, the Sanborn Cemetery, the Plains, the Banford, the Union Bridge, and then the Benjamin Philbrook Cemetery, Laconia Road near Anchorage Resort, and then it says town maintained.
And where did that list come from? From Ronald?
From the Runnels book, but this is a separate piece of paper, and it looks like that, and this is the back of it, and it looks like this was maintained by Cindy. And it looks like this was updated in, see, that's the Banford. It looks like it was May of 2000. I sent you this, right, Jeannie?
No,
Oh, I didn't. All right, let me just forward this to the, I'm sorry, I didn't, I thought I did. So I will forward this to the board and Jeannie. So, is it a mistake that says town maintained? I don't know. Is it true that it's town maintained? I don't know that either.
It came out of Rome, so it's probably from the 1860s.
But it's a piece of paper that was in the book that looks like that was created by Cindy Reinhardt.
There must be some kind of research
Right.
to base it on.
So by RSA, it's unlawful to move any of those markers or headstones or change the size, fences, or delineators, and that's a law. It's an RSA. We don't have choices over saying whether or not we wish to enforce the law, or we must. We're implied to do it. We as selectmen are the trustees of that graveyard. We know that they've moved gravestones, they've moved markers, they've moved the delineation and boundary markers. We have photographs of it. We have displaced graves. And even after that, they continued to do it. And they dug a trench through the graveyard, installed this gas pipe, and placed this generator on top of where the gravestone was that they moved. If we don't take action on this, something is going to happen very serious. Somebody is going to report this, and we are the ones who are not taking action on it, even though we know about it.
What action should we take at this point?
And
Who is the cemetery police here in town? We have no expertise, I don't believe, in pursuing this kind of a criminal matter.
A cease and desist, and then after that and there's very specific procedures for doing it, spelled out in the RSA, that they have to file a thing in the newspaper if they wish to do it. They also have to contact the historical association from the state historical archives or something. It spells it out in the RSA.
So
And they have to try and contact all family members.
did you read Jeannie's
That could be a
response
lie.
from New Hampshire Municipal?
So we can't just keep putting this off. This has been, what, 2 months now?
So I'm just curious, what's the consequence of town? Somebody sues the town for this?
It's criminal action, and we're just going, well, so what? It's okay. They're dead anyway. Okay, we have a comment. It's going to cost the guy money to move this generator, and that's undue hardship to him. So he's allowed to commit a crime, okay, because it would cost too much to undo that generator and put it back.
Who said that?
I'm Selectman Pyro.
Really?
So we as selectmen are ignoring it, and we're allowing that to happen. So I think we need to contact our legal counsel, and we need to do a cease and desist immediately. We have photographs where that is, was part of the cemetery. This is an emergency situation.
How do we know all the things that you listed before that they did, they had tried to, I thought early on in this conversation back in 2 months ago, that someone stated that attempts were made to contact the family. There were attempts made in the past and it's abandoned.
Eric, you must follow the RSA. That's what has, that's
But
what
what
I'm talking
happened?
about. It's
So what's the
law.
difference if it's in 2022 or 2020 or 2000 when someone attempted to do all these things and nothing happened? Why didn't the town take ownership back in 2000?
We did that. You cannot say because somebody didn't do something once, or whatever your claim is, that they continue to violate a state law. That is the situation here. We are allowing a state law to be violated right under our noses, not doing a thing about it. This is horrible.
The state law is being broken by every single car driving
Eric?
by us right
Stay
now.
on the top.
Okay, gentlemen.
Well-
Gentlemen, Keeney, could you
I
contact
think we need
legal
to-
representation and see what we should do from here?
And I think
So
we
that
need
we
to
have a
document everything.
roadmap to go, because John's right, and they have built on top of the cemetery. The issue of the cemetery notwithstanding, they can't build things and place things on top of the cemetery. The gravestones have been removed. That's a violation, and I know that as well. What happened to them, I don't know, but they were there before the construction, because I've seen it.
And they've made the graveyard smaller.
They
with the
moved the
fence.
delineation
The
markers off the
plastic fence.
graveyard.
My understanding was they did that to protect it while they were doing construction, not as delineation of the cemetery itself, which is while they were in construction to protect what was there. And, you know, just a question for you, if the town was maintaining this since 2000, how did it doesn't look like it was being maintained.
I'm not saying that the town is maintaining it.
Well,
I'm just
okay.
saying that this list
Yeah.
says it's town maintained.
As of 2000.
But on the back of that list, you'll see that that names the names that are in the cemetery, and it says a date May something 2000. So what I'm saying is that documentation was as of May 2000. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that they're maintained it since then. That cemetery was meticulously maintained up to a certain point. I would say at least 10 years ago. Mr. Walker kept that cemetery meticulously maintained.
I think we have pictures from a couple months ago. It was much better shape than
And-
now.
And whoever, I'm not saying these people did, but whomever the chains of different people buying and, you know, whatever, this cemetery is now in extreme disarray. And it's been unearthed, a footstone has been unearthed. And the generator is probably 90% on the cemetery.
Not according to I think it's in the documentation. There, one generator is like right on the edge and one is completely off, according to it's in that paper.
Well, I can show you, and I think, Pat, you have the pictures, that where this generator is fully within the boundary marker that would be right over here. And the other boundary marker goes along here. They've shortened the size of the cemetery by, I'd say about 40%. And
There
right
was-
there were photographs of a headstone right here.
Where are those pictures at?
I think they're on the drive.
Well, if somebody can give me all this documentation that you're talking about, what it looked like before and what it looks like now.
I
because
haven't been there to get
Well,
pictures of what
I
it looks
know,
like
but
now.
Well, I'm saying what it looked like before, because if this board agrees with what Joe said, which is to contact our attorney to find out what we can do, he's going to ask me for all this information. He's going to want to see the pictures of what it looked, the proof that this is what it looked like before, this is what changed over time. And, you know, he's going to want to know those things. How do you know this got moved? So that's what he's going to ask me. So that's what I need.
And we also have the drawings and the planning board plans. Why wasn't this inspected? Because on the plans, it showed the graveyard right up against the house.
So if
So
you can
why
give me that
should we need to
information.
do a site walk, or our building inspector go out there?
He's
But he
been
didn't
there.
give a violation?
He's been there. He took the initial picture, the one that's in the snow.
Well, at this point, I mean, just give me all the information and I'll get it to the attorney and he can tell us what you can do.
Can we get some type of order immediately to stop it from continuing? Because I don't see, we won't meet again for 3 weeks.
The only one that can give that order is going to be an attorney.
Right.
No,
And, yeah,
we issued one to the guy who held up the Trump sign.
That was through an attorney.
Was it?
Yeah,
Because it was only 4 days after. I don't know why we need to
but
wait.
then if you
another couple
remember when
months.
you did that, you asked Leanne to do it, then you said, don't
I know.
undo it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
This-
that was through an attorney, John. We asked them to do a cease and desist. We
It
can,
took a couple of days. I can't see waiting another 3 weeks before we report back on this.
we're not
hear what's going on.
asking, it's my understanding, we're not asking Jeannie to wait 2 or
No.
3 weeks. We just said,
Right.
could you please go to the attorney? What we're gonna do is turn over all the information that we have.
I can give that to the attorney. So as soon as I get all that from you, I'll give it to the attorney and he'll tell us what you can do.
That's my
But we
understanding.
won't hear back for 3 weeks
No,
to
that's
make
not
a
true.
decision, right?
No.
And
As
we
long
can
as-
have an emergency meeting.
as
if
long as
something's
Tim doesn't-
necessary.
We certainly can. Take her emails. That's all, it's a joke.
So let us,
The other part of this is we should be doing a deed research on it. The deeds that I was shown are condo documents. They're not a full research of the deeds. And were told, or I was told that there was a full research of the deeds, but that does not include the property, it's the buildings, because it's a condo setup.
It doesn't include the land that
That
the
the same
structures are on.
only includes the structures,
Right.
the deeds to the structures.
So at this point, you're gonna give me the information and I'll give it to the attorney and he'll tell us what you can do.
Well, I think there's more information that we have to get, and that's a copy of the deed for the land. And I think we should do a professional deed research in order to obtain that. So we can see where cemetery is officially located.
please keep track of how much this costs, just for my own
Well,
curiosity. Just
And
for my
on
own
top of that,
curiosity.
anybody who does violate that is liable for restitution and restoration.
I can, Jeannie, I can tell you just from this picture that this fence right here has been moved in,
I don't know.
and I'll show you.
All I'm saying is give me the information and send it to the attorney, tell you what you can.
Will do.
That's all I have on my report. Actually, I was done with my report.
Are there any questions for Jeannie and Tim? Is there any new business to come before us? at this
Oh.
time?
Just a quick question. Are we meeting on June 30th?
Yes.
That's still on, right?
Okay, he was saying 3 weeks and she said earlier.
We're meeting on the 30th and then again on the 7th, so I don't know when the 3 weeks.
The 30th, is that the,
Evaluation.
Yep.
but that's an official meeting or is that a workshop?
It's a non-public person,
So it's
personnel. So, but
just-
if there's something that you need to decide on, that there's nothing that says you can't decide on that just because it's about personnel.
July 4th, when does it?
Monday.
Is there any other new business to come before us in public
And I want
this
to find
evening?
out what,
It's a Monday.
Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thanks.
We stand adjourned, the time being 7:10.